I gave my jacket to a woman at the bus stop. 3 hours later, she was sitting in my apartment telling me people were coming to kill her. I should have known something was wrong the moment I saw her hands. They weren't just cold. They were shaking like she was trying to hold a secret too heavy to carry. No gloves, no hat, no proper coat, just a thin jacket that didn't match the weather. Her hair was damp from snow, sticking to her cheeks. Her lips were pale, and her hands trembled like she was trying to hold herself together by force. And the strangest part, she didn't look homeless. Not in the way people imagine. Her clothes were clean. Her boots were expensive. Too expensive for someone who'd be out here like that. Except one boot looked like the heel had snapped, like something had happened fast and hard. I slowed without meaning to. My first thought wasn't heroic. It was practical. This isn't safe. Don't get involved. You don't know what this is. But then she let out a small, involuntary shiver, sharp, like a suppressed sob, and something in my chest tightened. I've heard that sound before. Not just cold. Fear. The city was brutal that night. Wind like knives, snow falling sideways. The kind of cold that makes you stop seeing people as people, just shapes moving through the dark, trying to survive until morning. I was walking home from my shift at the warehouse, late, tired, hands jammed in my pockets, counting steps like coins because my paycheck didn't stretch far enough for bus fare. I'd learned to be invisible. People like me always do. That's when I saw her. She was sitting on the bench inside the shelter, but not like someone waiting for a bus. Like someone waiting for permission to stop running. I walked closer, careful, like approaching a wild animal. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice gentle. "You okay?" Her eyes lifted to mine, clear, focused, exhausted. "I'm fine," she said quickly. It was the kind of fine people say when they're not fine, but they're too proud or too scared to admit it. I glanced down at her bare hands. "You're freezing." She pressed her palms together like she could create warmth by willpower. "It's just, I'm waiting." "For the bus?" "Yes." But her eyes flicked to the street in a way that didn't look like someone tracking a bus schedule. It looked like someone watching for a threat. I should have walked away. I didn't. Maybe it was because I was raised by a mother who believed you never leave someone in the cold. Or maybe it was because I'd spent too many winters feeling invisible myself, and her loneliness hit something familiar in me. Without thinking too much, I shrugged my jacket off and held it out. "It's warm," I said. "Take it." Her stare snapped to the jacket like it was an insult. "No, it's not a big deal." "Yes, it is," she said, voice sharpening. "You'll freeze. I'll be fine. You don't know me?" "I know you're cold." She hesitated. I watched her pride fight with her body's reality. Another shiver betrayed her. Finally she whispered, "I can't take your jacket." "You can borrow it," I said, "if that helps." Her eyes stayed on mine for a long second, measuring something. Not the jacket. Me. Then she reached out slowly and took it, like she was accepting something dangerous. She slipped it on. It hung a little large on her, but the change was instant. Her shoulders relaxed, her breathing steadied. She didn't smile, not even a little, but her eyelids fluttered as if warmth was a memory she'd forgotten. "Thank you," she said quietly. I nodded once. "You want me to call someone? Family? A friend?" She flinched at the word friend like it came with a price tag. "No," she said too fast. "No calls." Now that was odd. I tilted my head. "Are you in trouble?" I said I'm fine, but her hands were gripping the sleeves of my jacket, clutching it closed like armor. And when a car slowed too long at the intersection, she tensed so hard I thought she might bolt. I sat down on the far end of the bench, leaving space between us. Not crowding, just staying. "My name's Jonah," I said. Not because she asked, because sometimes names make people less afraid. She blinked. "Jonah." I waited. She didn't offer hers. "That's okay," I said. "You don't have to tell me." Her gaze drifted past me to the street. Snow swirled like ash in the air. You shouldn't be here, she muttered. I'm waiting for my bus, too. She looked at me like she didn't believe that, like she couldn't imagine anyone choosing this corner of the city unless they had no other option. What do you do? She asked, suddenly. The question sounded casual, but there was a sharpness to it, like she needed to place me in a category: safe, unsafe, useful, useless. I work at a shipping warehouse, I said. Night shift. Warehouse, she repeated, almost tasting the word. Yeah, boxes, pallets, loading docks, supervisors who think yelling is leadership. A ghost of something, almost amusement, crossed her face. Then it vanished. What about you? I asked. Her jaw tightened. I work. That was the first red flag and the first clue. People who are used to being in control say I work like it's a weapon, like it means I'm not weak. The bus was late, of course. It always was when the weather turned mean. Minutes passed. Then a man appeared across the street. He was dressed too well for this hour. Dark coat, clean shoes, not a commuter, not a neighbor. He moved like he knew where every camera was, and when he looked toward the bus stop, her whole body locked. I felt it before I understood it. She leaned forward, eyes wide. Don't look at him, she whispered. My skin went cold in a different way. Who is that? Nobody, she said, and that was the least believable nobody I'd ever heard. The man took out his phone, glanced at it, then scanned the street again, like he was searching for her. My instincts screamed to stand up, to walk away, to not be part of whatever was unfolding. But then she gripped my sleeve, not hard, just enough to anchor herself. Please, she said, barely audible. If he comes over, don't say anything. I swallowed. Are you being followed? Her eyes darted to mine. There was fear there, but also anger, at herself, at the situation, at the world. I can handle it, she said, but she was sitting in a bus shelter in a snowstorm without gloves, wearing a jacket that wasn't hers, and shaking like her bones were trying to escape her body. Something didn't add up. The man started walking toward us. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. He crossed the street, boots crunching slush, expression calm and confident, the kind of calm that comes from believing you always get what you want. He stopped just outside the shelter and looked in. His eyes went straight to her. There you are, he said, like he'd found a misplaced item. She didn't move. He looked at me then. Evening. I forced myself to meet his gaze. Evening. His smile was polite and empty. Is everything okay here? Before I could answer, she said, Go away. His smile tightened. We've been worried. You disappeared. You? She corrected, voice trembling with fury. You've been looking. His eyes flicked to the jacket on her shoulders. My jacket. His gaze sharpened. You're cold, he said. Come with me. The car is warm. Number. He stepped closer, stopping at the shelter's edge. You're making this difficult. I stood up, not aggressively, just enough to block his line of sight. She said, No, I told him. The man's eyes narrowed. This is none of your business. She's sitting here in the snow, I said. It's everybody's business when someone's in trouble. He gave me a look that tried to shrink me down. You don't know who you're talking to. I almost laughed because people like him always say that. Maybe that's why I said, Then tell me. For the first time, his calm cracked. He didn't answer, because the truth was, he expected obedience, not questions. The woman, still unnamed, spoke again. Jonah, don't. The fact that she used my name startled me. She'd been listening, remembering, choosing. He turned back to her. This isn't a game. It is to you, she snapped. Everything is. The street felt suddenly too open, too exposed. Cars passing, windows glowing, people inside warm, unaware. I looked down at her broken heel. Your shoe, what happened? Her lips parted, and for a moment she looked like she might tell the truth. But the man interrupted. She had an accident. She's not thinking clearly. I felt my anger ignite. She seems pretty clear to me. He sighed, like I was an inconvenience. Listen, kid, I'll give you money for the jacket, whatever you want, but walk away. That was the second twist, not because he offered money, because of how quickly he assumed money could solve it. I looked at him. I'm not selling my jacket. His eyes hardened. It wasn't a request. Behind me, the woman inhaled sharply. I glanced at her. Do you want to go with him? Her answer came fast, like it had been waiting. No. I nodded once, then faced him again. Then she's not going. For a moment I thought he might grab her, or push past me, or do something ugly. But instead, he leaned in slightly and lowered his voice. You're standing in the way of something bigger than you understand. I said, try me. His eyes flashed with something, annoyance, disbelief, maybe even calculation. Then he stepped back, pulling out his phone. He looked at her as he dialed. You've embarrassed yourself enough for one night. She stood up, suddenly, the jacket clutched around her. Don't call them. He paused, smiled. Why not? Her voice dropped. Because you know what they'll do. My stomach sank. This isn't just some boyfriend drama, I muttered. She shot me a look that said, now you're catching up. The bus arrived then, headlights cutting through the snowfall. Doors hissed open. I grabbed her elbow gently, not pulling, just guiding. Get on. She hesitated for half a second, then moved with me. We climbed aboard, and the heat inside hit like a wall. The man stayed outside, watching. As the bus pulled away, he lifted his phone to his ear and spoke. I couldn't hear the words, but the way his mouth moved told me enough. This wasn't over. We sat near the back. She stared at her hands. Her breathing was fast, controlled but fast. You okay? I asked softly. She nodded once, then shook her head, like she didn't know which answer was allowed. My stop is coming up, I said. Where are you going? She looked up at me, and for the first time I saw it. Beneath the cold and fear, there was steel, the kind you don't get from comfort, the kind you earn by surviving rooms full of predators. I can't go home, she whispered. I swallowed. Do you have somewhere safe? She hesitated. Then, like it hurt to say it, I used to. The bus rattled over a pothole. The lights flickered. If you're someone who believes one person can make a difference, even when the world says otherwise, you might want to remember this channel. Stories like this, they matter. And if they matter to you, then maybe you're the kind of person who needs to hear them. I'm going to say something, I told her, keeping my voice calm. And you can tell me to shut up if I'm wrong. She didn't respond. You don't look like someone who lives at a bus stop, I continued. You look like someone who was in a warm building an hour ago. Something happened. Someone tried to control you. Her eyes glistened, not with tears yet, but with pressure. I lowered my voice. Are you running from someone in your life, or from someone at your work? That did it. A tear slipped down her cheek like it didn't ask permission. She wiped it away fast, furious with herself. Then she said, very quietly, both. I leaned back, exhaling. Okay. She stared at me like she expected judgment. I didn't give it. After a moment, she said, I didn't ask you to get involved. I know, I said, but I'm involved now. She shook her head slowly. That man, he works for people who don't like hearing no. I kept my voice steady, and you told them no. She laughed once, sharp and bitter. I did worse than that. The bus slowed for a stop. A couple got on, laughing, brushing snow off their shoulders. She waited until they sat down before she continued. I was supposed to sign something, she said. What kind of something? A confession, she whispered. My eyebrows pulled together. Confession to what? Her mouth tightened. To things I didn't do, decisions I didn't make. My pulse beat harder. You're in some kind of corporate mess, I said. Her eyes lifted. It's not just corporate. And there it was, the third twist, hiding in plain sight. Her silence wasn't because she was scared of one man. She was scared of a system. "I'm going to guess," I said carefully. "You're not a normal employee." She stared at me. I continued, taking a gamble. "You're the person they're trying to silence." Her throat bobbed. She didn't deny it. She said, "They think I'm alone." I almost missed it, but the wording mattered. Not "I am alone." They think, meaning she had resources. She had power, but something had trapped her in a moment where power didn't matter. The bus rolled on, and outside, the snow swallowed the city, turning everything into blurred shapes. "I'm not asking for your name," I told her, "but I need to know this. Are you in danger tonight?" She looked down at the jacket again, at the sleeves too big for her. Then she said, "Yes." My stomach clenched. I thought of my small apartment, my empty fridge, my cheap furniture, my life built on barely enough, and I heard myself say, "Okay. Then we get you somewhere warm first, safe second, answers later." She blinked. "You'd do that for a stranger?" I shrugged, but it wasn't casual. "Someone did it for my mother once." That made her eyes soften, just a little. "What's your stop?" she asked. "2 stops from here." She looked away, thinking, calculating. Then she said, "If I go with you, I might bring trouble." I said, "Trouble seems to find people whether we invite it or not." A pause. Then she whispered, "Jonah, if you knew who I was, you wouldn't risk this." I looked at her. "Try me." She hesitated. Then, like speaking it would make it real, she said, "I'm the interim chief executive of a company you've probably heard of." I didn't react the way she expected. I didn't gasp. I didn't bow. I didn't call her ma'am. I just stared, processing. "CEO," I repeated. She nodded, jaw clenched, waiting for the moment I'd step away and apologize for touching her elbow. But instead I asked, "Then why are you out in the snow?" Her eyes sharpened. "Because," she said, voice low, "someone inside my company is stealing millions, and tonight I told them I'm going to expose it." The air felt heavier. "And the man at the bus stop?" I asked. She swallowed. "He was sent to bring me back before I could talk to anyone." I sat back, stunned. Then I asked the question that came naturally, the one that mattered more than titles. "Do you have proof?" Her eyes flickered with something dangerous. Determination. "Yes," she said, "but they took my phone, and they think they took everything." The bus neared my stop. I stood up slowly. "All right." She looked at me. "All right?" I nodded. "You need warmth. Then you need a plan." Her voice cracked. "You don't understand what they can do." I met her eyes. "Then help me understand. Start with this. Why did you end up alone at a bus stop instead of calling security?" Her face tightened, like the answer tasted like betrayal. "Because," she said, "the head of security is involved." That line hit like ice water. The bus doors hissed open at my stop. I looked at her. "Come on." She hesitated only a second, then stood and followed. Outside, the cold slapped us again, but she pulled my jacket tighter. As we walked, she kept glancing over her shoulder. The street behind us looked empty, but I didn't trust empty anymore. We reached my building, a tired brick place with a hallway that smelled like old paint and last week's cooking. The kind of place no CEO would ever choose. I unlocked the door and let her in. She stepped into my apartment and froze, not from cold, but from surprise. There wasn't much. A couch that had seen better years, a small table, a kettle, a single-framed photo of my mom, smiling in a way that made you believe life could be gentle. She stared at it. "Your mother?" I nodded. "Yeah." She swallowed hard. "She looks kind." "She was," I said. "Sit. I'll make tea." As the kettle heated, I felt the weight of what I'd done settle over me. I had brought a stranger into my home, a stranger being hunted, a stranger who was somehow a CEO. But there was another twist I hadn't said out loud yet, not even to myself. Because when she'd been at that bus stop, shaking, refusing to call anyone, it wasn't just fear of being followed. It was fear of trusting the wrong person. And the truth was, I didn't know if I was the right person. I handed her a mug, her hands wrapped around it like prayer. "What's your plan?" I asked. She stared into the steam. Then she said, "I need to reach someone outside the company. Someone who can't be bought." I nodded slowly. "Okay." "Who?" She looked up, eyes steady now, no longer just a woman trying to survive the cold, a woman trying to survive a war. "There's a journalist," she said, "and a regulator. I have a meeting in the morning." My stomach tightened. Morning is hours away, I know. Outside, somewhere in the city, that man was making calls, pulling strings, moving pieces. Inside my tiny apartment, I watched her breathe, watched the warmth return to her face, watched her pride rebuild itself like armor, and I realized something that made my chest go tight. Offering my jacket wasn't the brave part. The brave part was what came next. Because once you help someone like her, you don't get to go back to being invisible, and I had a feeling, by morning, nothing about my life was going to be the same. The night stretched long and quiet. She sat on my couch, still wrapped in my jacket, hands around the tea like it was the only solid thing left in her world. I sat across from her in the old armchair that had been my mother's, the one with the tear in the armrest I'd never bothered to fix. For a while neither of us spoke. Outside, snow kept falling. Inside, the radiator clicked and hissed, doing its best to fight the cold. Finally, she broke the silence. "I should tell you my name," she said. I looked up. "Only if you want to." She studied me for a long moment, like she was deciding whether names mattered anymore. Then she said, "Elena." "Elena," I repeated. She nodded once. "Elena Voss." The name landed heavy. I'd heard it before. Not often, but enough. Infinity Corp, tech sector, billion-dollar contracts, Senate hearings about data privacy. "I know that name," I said quietly. Her mouth tightened. "Most people do." I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "And you're running because someone inside your company is stealing millions." "Not stealing," she corrected. "Laundering, bribing, blackmailing. Take your pick." I exhaled slowly. "How long have you known?" "3 months," she said. "Maybe longer." I started seeing patterns, numbers that didn't match. Contracts awarded to shell companies. People promoted who shouldn't have been. "And you started asking questions." Her eyes flashed. I started digging. The way she said it made me believe her, not because she was loud about it, but because she was careful. "What did you find?" I asked. She set the mug down. "Enough to end careers, maybe enough to end the company." A pause. Then she added, "And enough to get myself killed if I'm not careful." The word "killed" hung in the air like smoke. I swallowed hard. "You think they'd actually—" "I don't think," she interrupted. "I know. 2 whistleblowers before me disappeared. One ended up in a car accident. The other had a nervous breakdown and can't remember what he was going to report." My skin went cold. Jesus. She looked at me, eyes steady. "So yes, they would." I ran a hand through my hair, trying to process. "And tonight, they tried to bring you back before you could go public." She nodded. "I told the board this afternoon that I was filing a report with the SEC in the morning, that I had documentation, names, transactions." "And they panicked. They sent someone to my apartment," she said, voice flat. "Told me I was being reckless, that I didn't understand the full picture, that I should take some time off, clear my head. But you refused." "I ran," she corrected. I grabbed what I could and left through the service exit. My heel broke on the stairs. They took my phone when I wasn't looking, and I ended up at that bus stop trying to figure out my next move. I stared at her. "You're the CEO. Can't you just fire them?" She laughed bitterly. "I'm interim CEO. I was appointed 6 months ago after the last one resigned suddenly. I don't have full board support. Half of them want me gone, because you're asking too many questions." "Exactly." The radiator hissed again, louder this time, like it was trying to remind us it was still working. Elena pulled the jacket tighter around herself. I shouldn't have involved you. Too late, I said. She looked at me, guilt flickering across her face. They'll find out who you are. They'll come after you too. I shrugged. Let them try. Jonah, you don't understand. Then help me understand, I said, cutting her off. You said you have proof. Where is it? Her eyes shifted. Somewhere safe. How safe? She hesitated. A safety deposit box. At a bank downtown. Can you get to it? Not until morning. Banks don't open until 9. I glanced at the clock on the wall. 11:47 p.m. 9 hours. Okay, I said. Then we wait. She shook her head. You should sleep. You have work tomorrow. I almost laughed. You think I'm going to work after this? Her expression softened, just a fraction. You can't throw your life away for someone you just met. I met her eyes. My mom used to say something. She'd say, some people walk into your life for a reason, and if you ignore the reason, you miss the point of being alive. Elena's throat moved. She didn't respond, but she didn't argue either. I stood up, grabbed a blanket from the closet, and handed it to her. You take the couch. I'll take the floor. No, she said quickly. I can't. You can, I said. And you will, because tomorrow you're going to need your strength. She stared at the blanket in her hands like it was something precious, fragile. Then she whispered, Why are you doing this? I thought about it, really thought about it. Because, I said slowly, someone has to. She looked away, blinking fast. I turned off the overhead light, leaving only the small lamp in the corner. Its glow was soft, orange, warm. Get some rest, I said. I'll keep watch. Jonah. Elena, I said, voice firm but gentle. Rest. She lay down slowly, pulling the blanket over herself. Her breathing evened out after a few minutes, but I could tell she wasn't really asleep. Just pretending, just trying. I sat in the armchair, staring out the window at the snow falling endlessly, and wondered what the hell I'd gotten myself into. But deep down, I already knew. I'd gotten myself into something that mattered. Morning came too fast and too slow. The snow had stopped, leaving the city white and muffled. I woke stiff and sore from the chair, my neck complaining with every movement. Elena was already awake, sitting upright on the couch, staring at her hands. You didn't sleep, I said. She shook her head, couldn't. I stood up, stretched, and walked to the small kitchen. Coffee, please. I made 2 cups, strong and black, and handed her one. She took it with both hands, eyes distant. They'll be watching the bank. Probably, I agreed, and they'll know my face. I nodded. But they don't know mine. Her eyes lifted sharply. No, absolutely not. You said you have a key, I continued. Give it to me. Tell me what I'm looking for. Jonah, if you go in there, they'll think I'm just some guy, I finished, which I am. She stared at me, torn between desperation and guilt. I can't ask you to do that, she said. You're not asking, I told her. I'm offering. Her hands trembled slightly around the mug. They could hurt you. They could try, I said. But I'm pretty good at being invisible. People like me always are. That made her pause, because she knew it was true. After a long moment, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver key. Box 437, she said quietly. 3rd floor, northeast corner. I took the key. It was cold and light, almost weightless. What am I looking for? I asked. A black flash drive, she said, and a manila folder. Don't open it. Just bring it back. I nodded. Got it. She grabbed my wrist suddenly, her grip tight. If anything feels wrong, leave. Don't be a hero. I looked down at her hand on mine. I'm not a hero, Elena. I'm just a guy who can't walk away. Her eyes glistened. She let go. Thank you, she whispered. I pulled on my jacket, the one she'd been wearing all night. and felt the warmth still clinging to it. Then I walked out into the cold morning, into a world that suddenly felt much bigger and more dangerous than it had the night before. The bank was a towering glass building downtown, all steel and sharp angles. I walked in like I belonged there, keeping my head down, hands in my pockets. The lobby was busy. Business people in suits, a mother with 2 kids, security guards near the entrance, scanning IDs. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The safety deposit room was quiet, sterile, rows and rows of small metal doors. A bored attendant sat behind a desk, flipping through a magazine. I approached, key in hand. "Morning," I said. She glanced up. "Box number? 437. She checked her system, nodded, and led me to the northeast corner. "Here you go," she said, unlocking the outer panel. "Let me know when you're done." She walked away. I inserted the key, opened the box, and reached inside. The flash drive was there. Small, black, innocuous. The folder was thin but heavy with secrets. I grabbed both, slipped them into my jacket, and closed the box. As I turned to leave, I saw him, the man from the bus stop. He was standing near the elevator, scanning the room. Our eyes met. For one frozen second, neither of us moved. Then he stepped forward, fast. I bolted. Down the hallway, past startled customers, toward the emergency stairwell. Behind me, I heard him shout, "Stop that man!" I hit the stairwell door hard, taking the steps 2 at a time. My heart pounded in my ears. The folder pressed against my ribs. The flash drive felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I burst out onto the ground floor, sprinted through the side exit, and into the street. Snow crunched under my boots as I ran, weaving through morning traffic, ignoring the honking cars and startled pedestrians. I didn't stop until I was 3 blocks away, gasping for air in an alley behind a laundromat. My hands shook as I checked the jacket. The flash drive, the folder, still there. I leaned against the brick wall, chest heaving, and let out a shaky laugh. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. Now I just had to get back alive. When I walked back into my apartment, Elena was on her feet instantly. "Jonah." I held up the flash drive and folder. Her eyes went wide. Then she crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into a fierce hug. I froze, surprised. She held on for a long moment, then stepped back, wiping her eyes quickly. "I'm sorry," she said. "It's okay," I said softly. She took the items from me with trembling hands, staring at them like they were holy relics. "This is it," she whispered. "This is everything." I told her about the man, about the chase. Her face went pale. "They know you now." "Yeah," I said. "I figured." She looked at me, guilt and gratitude warring in her expression. "I've ruined your life." I shook my head. "You didn't ruin it. You changed it." Before she could respond, her burner phone, the one she'd bought at a corner store the night before, buzzed. She answered, voice steady. "This is Elena Voss." A pause. Then, "Yes, I have it. I'm ready to meet." She listened for a moment, then nodded. "Noon. I'll be there." She hung up. "The journalist?" I asked. She nodded. "And the federal regulator. They're meeting me at a secure location." "Good," I said. "Then it's almost over." She looked at me, eyes shadowed. "It's just beginning. Here's what I still don't know. I still don't know if what I did that night was right. She could have been lying. She could have been dangerous. I could have lost everything. Would you have given your jacket to a stranger? Would you have let her into your home? Would you have walked into that bank knowing armed men might be waiting? I'm asking because I need to know. Was I brave or just stupid?" The meeting was set for a neutral location, a law office on the edge of the financial district. Elena dressed in clothes I'd lent her, an oversized sweater and jeans that didn't fit right, but she wore them with the same dignity she'd worn the boardroom. I insisted on going with her. She didn't argue this time. We took a cab, sitting in tense silence as the city blurred past the windows. When we arrived, she hesitated at the door. "You don't have to come in," she said. I looked at her. "Yes, I do." Inside, we were led to a conference room. Two people waited, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s with a reporter's notebook and a stern man in a federal badge. Elena handed over the flash drive and folder. For the next 2 hours, she talked, she explained, she answered every question with precision and clarity. I sat in the corner, watching. This was her world, not mine, but I was still there. When it was over, the journalist shook her hand. "This is going to make waves." The regulator nodded grimly. "We'll need you to testify." Elena's jaw set. "I will." As we left the building, the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in days. Elena stopped on the sidewalk, staring up at the light. "It's done," she whispered. I nodded. "Yeah, it is." She turned to me, eyes bright with something I hadn't seen before. "Hope." "Jonah," she said, voice thick, "I don't know how to thank you." I shrugged. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do," she insisted. "You risked everything. For a stranger." I met her eyes. "You're not a stranger anymore." Her breath hitched. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out my jacket, the one I'd given her at the bus stop. "Keep it," I said. She shook her head. "No, it's yours." "It saved you," I said. "That makes it more yours than mine." Her eyes filled. "Then let me give you something back." Over the next weeks, the story broke. Headlines screamed. Stock prices tanked. Executives resigned. Federal charges were filed. Elena Voss became a name synonymous with courage. And me? I went back to the warehouse. At first. Then one morning, I got a call. "Jonah?" Her voice was steady, professional, but warm. "Elena, I need to see you. We met at a coffee shop. Neutral ground, away from cameras and reporters." She slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a job offer, head of ethics and integrity, Infinity Corp. I stared at the paper. "You're joking." "I'm not," she said. "You showed me what integrity looks like. I want you to help me rebuild the company with that same standard." I looked up. "I'm a warehouse worker, Elena. You're a man who did the right thing when it cost you everything," she corrected. "That's the only qualification that matters." I didn't know what to say. She leaned forward. "Jonah, you gave me more than a jacket. You gave me hope. You reminded me that some people still care about what's right." Her voice softened. "Let me give you something back." Months passed. I took the job. It was strange at first, walking halls where people wore suits and spoke in acronyms. But Elena was patient. She taught me, guided me, trusted me, and slowly, something else began to grow. Late nights reviewing policy turned into dinners. Dinners turned into walks through the city. Walks turned into moments where words weren't necessary. One evening, after a long day, we stood on the rooftop of the Infinity Building, watching the sunset over the skyline. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked. "Every day," I said. She looked at me. "Do you regret it?" I turned to her. "Not for a second." Her eyes softened. "You changed my life, Jonah." I smiled. "You changed mine, too." She stepped closer. "I kept the jacket." "I know. It's in my office," she said. "Framed, behind glass." I raised an eyebrow. "Really?" She nodded. "It reminds me that kindness doesn't need a reason. It just needs to show up." I looked at her, this woman who'd been a stranger shivering at a bus stop, who'd become my friend, my partner, my everything. She kissed me, soft. Sure, like it had always been inevitable. When we pulled apart, she smiled. "Thank you for showing up." I grinned. "Thank you for letting me stay." A year later, Infinity Corp unveiled a new initiative, the Integrity First program, designed to protect whistleblowers and promote ethical leadership. At the launch event, Elena stood at the podium, composed and powerful. But before she spoke, she gestured to the display behind her. There, in a glass case, was the jacket. Worn, faded, ordinary, but framed like art. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can rewrite a life." She looked out at the audience, her eyes finding mine in the crowd. "This jacket," she began, "belonged to a man who gave me more than warmth on a cold night. He gave me the courage to stand when everything told me to fall." Applause erupted, but I didn't hear it. I only saw her. The woman who'd been a stranger. The woman who'd become everything. As the event ended, she found me outside, away from the cameras. "How'd I do?" she asked. I pulled her close. "Perfect." She rested her head against my shoulder. "We make a good team. The best," I agreed. And as snow began to fall again, soft and gentle, I thought about that night, about the choice I'd made, about the jacket I'd given, about the life that came after. But here's what I still think about, late at night, when the city goes quiet. What if I'd walked away? What if I'd kept my jacket and let her freeze? What if I'd chosen safety over risk, comfort over courage? I'll never know, and honestly, I'm glad I never will. Because some questions are better left unanswered, some moments are meant to be leaps, not calculations, and some people, some cold nights, some broken heels and shaking hands, they're meant to change everything. If you're still here, if you made it this far, then maybe you're the kind of person who believes what I believe. That one moment, one choice, one stranger in the snow can be the difference between a life half-lived and a life fully awake. This channel exists for people who feel that too deeply to ignore it. For people who know that kindness isn't weakness, that showing up matters, that being invisible doesn't mean being powerless. If that's you, then you're not just watching stories here. You're home. I still sit in that torn armchair sometimes, the one from my mother, the one where I kept watch that night while Elena slept, and I think about the jacket, how it hangs in her office now, behind glass, like something sacred, how something so ordinary became something unforgettable, how a piece of fabric, worn and faded, became the symbol of everything we built together. But the truth is, the jacket was never what mattered. It was the moment I chose to give it, the moment I chose her over safety, the moment I stopped being invisible and started being present. That's the moment that changed everything, and I'd do it again, every single time.